Yo, what is going on, y'all? No fancy intros this time. Your boy's kind of been going through it, you could say. So, um, as always, this is for me, this is for my future self. Look back on capturing the moment. I think one thing that I love about these pods is just seeing how thinking changes over time, also capturing just little slivers, little moments in time, and the power of capturing the journey and being able to go back and look at problems from the future from a distance. Um, and so that's what I kind of want to do in this one. Is kind of talk about like what's going on, like stuff I've been thinking about, stuff I've been wrestling with, um, a couple different like insights that I've learned recently, a couple kind of little tricks that I think have been powerful. Um, yeah, so that's it. So again, this is going to be kind of like quick and dirty pods, just some ideas, and we're going to dive in. But also just having a lot of my heart in my mind, and I think there's this podcast I heard recently with Hormozy that I love, and he talks about like just win. I talked about this idea before, but it's basically that um, we're all playing with a handicap of some sort, and so that's not an excuse. And I think what I want to do, what I tend to do in these moments is I realize that I haven't. It's not that I've come accustomed to losing, but like the way that winning is a habit, not losing, but like not living up to potential also can be a habit. And I'm in one of those places where I feel very stuck and kind of like frustrated that things aren't changing and that I'm maybe not winning more. And I realized that I miss winning. I think from the pod, like I realized that like I used to feel like I was kind of like in the game and I just feel like I'm on the sidelines. And I've been realizing like I need to get back in the game. I want to get back in the game. I just turned 35 and I feel like I want to be like in that mix again. I think a lot about there's this one writer, speaker, teacher I love named Arthur Brooks. And he says his whole thesis is he's like, I like to write, speak, and teach. And I think about that too, in terms of like, I think that'd be kind of like my ideal lifestyle is like having a chance to like to speak about like at events and things like that. And do podcast interviews and also maybe do some teaching and also do my writing and just sort of this it's more of an engaged life, right? Where right now a lot of it's like just I'm off on my own doing my writing and like working on my marketing, my social media shit. But I'd like the whole idea isn't to get popping on social media just to try to be famous or like anything like that. It's more like it's like how do you gain leverage in an audience and then bring that so that it changes your real life, that you can actually like manifest something in this life because of what you've done on the internet. And I think this is a concept that's been on my mind a lot recently because my therapist this last week, a rad Colombian dude, and I told him how I was like pursuing this like fiction empire. But in my mind, when I think of a fiction empire, I think of like Ryan Holiday. I think of a Morgan Housel. I think of a Mark Manson. I think of like a James Clear. Yes, these guys have bestsellers. But my whole point is like, not that they necessarily make all their money from their books. I think they have all these, it's almost like a writer's ecosystem. And that's what I think about for myself. Like when I think about building this thing, it's not like I'm trying to make $1 zillion off the books. The books are almost just like a piece of this puzzle. And he looked at me straight up and he's like, you're delusional. He was like, but I just don't think he gets it. Like this idea of he feels like the idea of like building an audience online, he feels like is just me like trying to be like the famous writer. And so it was like, it's been interesting. I've been kind of like grappling with that thought this week of like, it's like, am I delusional? And this idea of like how important I think how important it is to have some self-delusion just to shoot a shot, but also the importance of like playing in this reality. So I'll give you an example. So one thing that I've been toying with is normally when I get into this spot and I feel like I'm not in dire straits, but I feel like I'm kind of like down bad, like emotionally, spiritually, not necessarily financially, but like when I feel like I'm in this spot where like I'm back up against the wall type shit. And again, this is like I live from the outside, I live like a beautiful life, but internally back up against the wall in terms of like feeling like I need to make a change. I need to get it. Normally comes from this lever that I can pull of just working harder. I've never been the smartest guy, never been the most crafty guy, but I know there's this like other gear I can go into if I really need to. And normally the way that I can do that is by like moving someplace where the costs are very minimal and I can just like save up a bunch of money or work less hours so that I don't have to spend as much, so I can spend more time building the thing, right? And this is the same feeling that I had that like right now that I had when I first moved to Thailand. I was living in Philly, in West Philadelphia, born and raised, just kidding. And I was like, man, I feel like I'm like, nothing is working the way that I want it to. I'm frustrated. I'm sad. I'm like kind of in this like down point emotionally. And I was like, well, what if I just like shake shit completely up? And I think sometimes you got to like shake yourself awake a little bit. And my therapist, he's like, it sounds like you're having a crisis. And I laughed. And then I was like, he was like, why are you laughing? And I was like, that's a good, I was like, because it doesn't feel like a crisis. When I think of a crisis, I think of time. No, I'm kidding. I think of like a loved one dying or something. I think of like something more extreme. But the more I thought about it, I'm having like a little bit of like a third of a life crisis, I guess you could say, where I'm feeling that like agitation to like wanna just like bust out of the mold and shake shit up. And I think when I'm in these moments, it's a real growth opportunity because my mind expands to more other options that I wouldn't normally consider. And so I can feel I'm in one of those moments where I'm like, what if what are some things that I could do right now that I don't normally put on the table, that I would not normally open to things like, and this is the hardest part. Like, I'm like, what if I break up with my girlfriend, go live alone, just like, again, bring expenses down, change my city, completely reinvent myself. Like, I don't normally go to a lot of events. I start going to events. It's almost like, what if I just do the opposite of what I'm doing and just see if that works? Because I think there's a lot about this routine that works. And then, but there's also a lot that I'm probably doing insofar that's not contributing to my goals that I'm not realizing. And it's been really hard because that is my default, is live alone, go fucking hard, dig, like find a little pit that you can live in and just like grind. And I think I've been feeling stuck because this is the first time ever that option hasn't necessarily been available to me, because the sacrifices of giving up my partner aren't an easy decision to make, in terms of like how it's the first time I've had to really measure that dream and be like, how important actually is it to work more towards this goal than you already are? And so it's been really hard. And it's hard to admit how easy my thought goes to like, let me just like break up with this woman I adore and just like completely restart. Like how my natural inclination, that like, that's my default, which is kind of crazy, because I think because I love being alone so much, and these dreams are so important to me. I'm also feeling this pressure of time, since I just turned 35. I think it's like, damn, I feel like, I know this isn't true. Like Gary Vee talks about this one. He's like, I started 34, but I do, when I imagine myself at 40, like it breaks my heart to think about myself being like in the same place, like career wise. Like I don't even really have a quote unquote career, And I've talked about it before, like MMA guys, which I'm going to circle back around to, but this little YouTube hint, if you want, you can like plant the seed for later. We'll come back to, but like to help your retention, watch retention for myself in the future to help watch this later. But it's been really hard because that is the first time when I'm in like, I don't know if I'm willing to give up what I want. I'm not sure if I'm willing to give up what I have for what I want. And maybe that's a sign of growth. It also, I realize, might be a false dichotomy. That might be faulty logic. I think about this a lot of like men who have kids and a wife and they're able to make it work, that like maybe these restraints that I'm feeling, maybe these are like outdated tools that used to serve me that no longer do. I still think there's something beautiful about it, and very real about it too, that is not nothing. And I think it's different. I think I can almost hear you being like, oh, you can't always run away from your problems. And I get that. But I do think there is something of like just making big changes in your, like, to do, if there's something that you want to do, to kind of like take big swings for it, like no half measures type shit. And it's something that I feel that pressure almost now more than ever, is this sense of like wanting to have a career. And I think because for the last 10 years, I've been in like Buddhist, like online nomad grind mode, but also like enjoying traveling and these other, being in these other places, and that like travel bug, I always wanted to, of like just like enjoying my day to day in Thailand, which I think is a beautiful thing. And I think there's something about that, like that Buddhist path that I love and have embraced a lot of that sort of like, even in like my little grind sessions, I've still been like, um, there's been a lot of time that I've been just like enjoying things, which is awesome. But I also am at that point where I'm feeling real pressure, like external pressure of like, I wanna, I can tell I'm getting slower. Like I'm not as sharp as I used to be. Like things are starting to hurt a little bit more, like in my body physically. Like I'm just not quite as like on top of it. And I know this is like, it's only a decline from here. Um, and so it's like I really want to like milk these next 5 years to be like, when I hit 40, like I want to have like more shit unlock. I want to have like maybe more like family planning stuff, in actually like momentum behind that, whether it's the person I'm gonna have kids with, or we already have a kid, or there's something on the way. But like being much more financially secure is a big part of that, and not having them like working at like for like a marketing agency is a big part of that too. It's like I want to have my own shit by then. And I think that's the hardest part, is trying to figure out, because right now I get like 1 day a week to work on it, maybe an hour in the mornings, maybe an hour in some evenings. But it's moving slowly. It's moving, but it's moving slowly. And a part of me is thinking like, what if I just like push that shit into like hyper speed and almost like try to speed run it for like a year or two, and then like pop out that next side and like have actually a real momentum and something built, and then go from there? Or just try to like patch it together in the time that I do have and with the partner that I do have. And um, it hasn't been easy. But one thing that I wanted to, okay, there were a couple points, things that have really helped me this last week that I thought about that I wanted to share with you. And one is this idea of, I think sometimes when I get frustrated is because it doesn't feel like there are any options. It's like, I already have my partner, I already have this place, it's already blah, 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 it's already locked. And that like, I think it's this idea of like, that there are always options. It's just, are you willing to choose them? But unless you're like actually like tied up, being held a prisoner of war somewhere, like you have options. You just might not like them, but you have them. And there was this Tiger Woods quote. Like, I'm not like a huge Tiger fan, but when people do reach exceptional heights, I do think sometimes there are interesting things to take from them. And he had this quote that I heard this last week that I really loved. And I've been getting more into this idea of like talking to yourself in the third person, looking at the research behind this. Like Matthew McConaughey talks about this. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, my brother's group of friends, they nicknamed me Kilo. And because I was always like into rapping and shit, and they'd be like, "Hey, Kilo." And so whenever I refer to myself, I'd be like, "All right, Kilo." Like that's how I talk to myself, is Kilo, but like kind of this third person. And I'm like, "All right, dude, all right, Kilo, like you got this." But the Tiger Woods thing was, he had this quote that I really loved, and he said, "You got yourself into this mess. You can get yourself out." And I just love that. It's like the same tools that got you into this place, like you still have a plethora of other tools. Like you put yourself here, you can get yourself out. And I've just been thinking about that a lot. Like, I'm not saying that this is a mess. I think it's a beautiful place. And I think that's another thing I've been struggling with, is like, I have like this very beautiful life from the outside. It's like it's a good life, but but it doesn't feel like a good life for me. And I think there's a part of me that loves the day-to-dayness of this sort of like slightly monastic lifestyle. But I think, and I want the monasticness of it to like, I want the bulk of that to be like working about stuff I'm really excited about. And right now it's not. Right now I'm like building somebody else's dream. And that just like is really worn on my like soul and psyche for the last 2 years, about, 18 months at this point, 17, 18 months. And so that has been something that I've been kind of wrestling with, is what does my ideal life look like? And I think there's more cool shit going on. Like I love the idea of like going to like speak. I want to have enough value of ideas or success or whatever these things are, that I can share that I can share stuff and feel good about it. That like, I'm like, hey, this is actually worth something. But right now I do feel like I got some cool stuff I can that I've written, and I'm like, hey, this is cool. I feel good about it, but I haven't had that like that any sense of like semblance of success with it, that it can be like, hey, I feel like there's actual proof here, because like the world or whoever's saying, hey, yes, there is this like art that more than I just feel good about, projects that more than I just feel good about. And so I think even in my introverted state, like thinking about like, when I think about these periods of the nomad life that I really loved, it was when I had more community, right? I had more like, it was in Chiang Mai, there were like events I was going to, like I had more like friends in my life, and I'm in touch with a lot of those folks still. So shout out y'all, but it's almost all of it's entirely online. And so it's like, how do I engage again, like in the real world, to like put myself in these communities that I can build with? And I think that's a piece of it too. There's another thing I heard this week about Einstein and how he was working out. I forget what it was, but he was trying to work out one of his like theorems, and he ended up going on a walk and talking with a friend, and that broke it open for him. It wasn't anything the friend said. It was just him having a chance to talk to a friend out loud about it. And he got the spark and he figured it out and he was able to have a breakthrough, which I thought was really powerful. Is like the idea of like walking and talking with friends in real time. All right, let's see what else I got here. So this is a couple other little nuggets. This is one that's been on my mind a lot. I think it's because of the way, and by the way, like these conversations here also do help me too in terms of like solidifying my thinking. Just again, speaking these kind of things into existence, admitting them, putting them out loud, putting them into the ether, I think is really helpful. And sometimes you have realizations about it or realize how silly you sound, which I think can sometimes be like the beautiful part of having a therapist, unless they call you delusional. But in that Hormozy interview, that same one, he has something, I think I already kind of knew this innately, but it's what I've been kind of even doing these podcasts for, is to think about your future self looking back on these moments as chapters along the journey and being like, these are the moments that are going to make this story. And I think about that a lot, actually, to be like, to wake up when I think about my story and some of the dark days, the dark periods that I've had, extended periods of times that have been frustrating or soul crushing or challenging. There's always a lot of like beautiful things that come out of those moments, but those are the moments that make the story, right? You don't get just like a story where you just go straight to the top. Like nobody loves that. Nobody likes that. It's like, we like the comeback, right? And it's like, how can you think about your chapter now, your dark chapter now, from a more successful version of yourself in the future, looking back on this moment right now and saying like, future me will be grateful for this moment because it's one that would it'll make a good chapter in the story. And that's kind of how I'm trying to think about this moment. It's like, how do you mine these moments from the future, from your future self, to make them easier to sort of just like thug it out as you're, finding your way through them. And that brings me to this story that like last night, I'm an MMA fan, UFC fan, and it was the comeback of Conor McGregor. And it was just such a fascinating story and event for me because I've been thinking about comebacks a lot. One at the Tiger Woods thing, I was like, after 10 years, he's like, okay, and then I'm going to go back. And there's this little documentary. I don't know why I'm so high on Tiger Woods recently, but like, it was after 10 years. I think he had to go win the Masters or something like that. And it was like, it's like a little 1 hour documentary. And just like, I find the comeback really powerful. And as humans, I think we just like a good comeback story. And I was so ready for Conor to come back. I was like, this man seems dialed. He's been sleeping in the gym, and everything he was saying sounded good. And if you don't watch UFC, he's like the biggest UFC star. He's been out of the game for 5 years. This was his moment to shine. And he comes back and he tries to jump and kick the opponent. This guy named Max Holloway. And in the first 10 seconds, the first 9 seconds, he tries this jump kick and he tears his ACL. And it's like a record-breaking revenue. Like all the celebs are there. The entire like online fighting community is watching this fight because he's the biggest fight star ever. And he tears his ACL in less than 10 seconds. And he like falls to the mat. The referee calls off the show, and it's like, you don't always get the comeback story. And even with the highest of highs, that man like making $100 million with Floyd Mayweather, like all the fight money he's had. He was the first person to ever get like double champion. He was a champion in 2 different weight classes, the first one to ever do it. But like the comeback story doesn't always go the way you want it to. And I think that's like seeing that, I think it was really like a hard pill to swallow, because it was almost like the universe, it was like meant for Connor to win that fight, because that opened up all these other opportunities. And it was like, and he's been training, he moved up a weight class. Like it was almost like the guy he was facing wasn't a grappler. Like it was going to be all striking, which is Connor's wheelhouse. He'd been knocked out before. He's a little old. Like all of these pieces, it felt like were kind of culminating towards the comeback story. And it changes in 10 seconds. And it's like, that completely changes the narrative of his entire career in 10 seconds. I mean, it was his choice to try to jump kick. That's true. If he would have stuck to like the fundamentals, he probably could have done much better. But just that, even like it's highs and lows, no matter who you are, no matter how rich you are, whatever, it's these highs and lows. And that it doesn't always go the way that you want. But like the best that you can do is ride those waves as they come. And who knows what's that, who knows, maybe this is like the pre-comeback, and then he has a real comeback after this, like, and it's even bigger, who knows. But like the journey there, because he had such a meteoric rise, it's just been really interesting for me to think about. As someone who, I don't think I had a meteoric rise, but I feel like I had some wins early. Some big wins early. The first time I was able to like set my mind on something 4 years out and be like, if I make the right moves and sacrifice for the next 4 years, I can get to this place that I want to get. And like you do that a couple times, and you're like, you almost feel like you have the mental capacity to kind of like build that you can kind of like warp reality to be towards what you want it to be. And I think some people still can do this in a way. And I think I've just gotten this habit. I don't want to say habit of losing, but I miss winning. And I feel like I haven't won in a while. And like, I crave it. I really crave it. Like that I feel like, I don't know. I've like, there's something about this time pressure that's kind of like reignited this hunger in me that has always been there. I've been a hard charger and trying to make those my time and whatever. But like, I do feel like there's this reignition of a spark. And so I'm trying not to think about these moments as like this catastrophic quarter life crisis, or, third of life crisis, but trying to think about it more as like, how is this moment like a spark for something new? I'm getting excited about it, even talking about it right now. I can almost feel it in my body. Like I feel kind of like charged with this electricity. Maybe it's the cacao, maybe it's inspiration, but this feeling of like, I can just feel like something needs to change, and I'm gonna change. Like I don't know what it is yet, but nothing changes if nothing changes. And I love that phrase. And so it's like, I got to do something, and I want to take some big swings, and you kind of got to get your back up against the wall in some ways before you feel like you can take them. And I feel like I'm there. And I realize I might not be able to have my cake and eat it too, in terms of like wanting the family, wanting the career success. I might be able to get it all. I might not be able to get it all right now. It might not be on the timeline I want. But damn it, like, hell, if I don't go down swinging, and like, at least try to make this shit happen while I can. Because I thought of this line this last week, and it like, again, it kind of broke my heart, but I was like, it's so true, of like, I don't think I can have, this also might be a faulty belief, but I don't know if I can tell my kid to like chase their dream and that like dreams come true if I don't feel like I really achieved mine or like gave mine a real shot. It's like, I think though, I don't want those words to feel hollow when I tell them, like, when my child, like, I want to be able to like embody that and be like my son or my daughter, I'm going to take them and be like, whether they're trying out for Little League, whether it's wrestling, whether it's for, orchestra, on to be like you try your heart out. It's not always going to work, but like some like dreams they can come true. They don't do come true. Like dreams don't do come true. Like shit's you might jump in 10 seconds and break your ACL. but they can, and like, I want to believe that again. And I think I'm getting close to that point. Like I said, like my mind is just, I can just tell I'm in like this other wave, just like things are kind of painful enough, like in my psyche, that I'm just open to like options. It's a dangerous place. Like the right MLM comes along and like, I could be seduced into like a cult at this moment, but I'm also like just feeling very kind of fluid in this life of like following this spark. And I just want to be able to feel like not just say it, but I want to like feel that dream is real again. And to be able to like pass that on to a kid someday and like know it, just not pay a lip service. So dreams can come true. They don't do come true though. Remember that. All right. That's it for now. I got to go chat with my folks. Thank you for making time for me. Future self. I'm glad you're killing it, future self. We'll put it like that. I'm glad you're looking back on this and laughing. I can see you. You keep laughing. It's cool. It's fine. I get it. I didn't know. But I'm glad that you're watching this back. And I'm glad you're getting a kick out of it. Always love. Peace.